Hope Channel, changing lives.
A blessed good evening to you, my lovely viewer. I'm so glad that every day God gives us opportunity to come to your set and interact with you. Today is another wonderful day. Today, Thursday, has been declared as a World Earth Day. And so globally, everybody is celebrating this earth that we are living on, the Global Earth Day. And so we are taking memories of how we've lived on this earth, our activities and how it has impacted the earth that we are living in. And because of that, family life, we don't want to leave you just like that. We just want you to also have a feel of the Earth Day celebration. And so today we are going to discuss family health and hygiene. And the topic that we want you to understand, there is this particular insect in this world that is causing trouble: mosquitoes. And so what should family knows about mosquitoes? Mosquitoes, is it dangerous? Is it a friend? How should we treat it? How dangerous it is? What are its impacts on families? Why is it that in our communities in Ghana, everywhere you will find mosquitoes? Do we really have one particular mosquito, or we have different types of mosquitoes? Today we are here with renowned doctor, researchers, to help us understand that parasite called, let me say insect, so that you understand, called mosquito. So I have with me Dr. K. Dazi, that is Dr. Kweku Dazi. He is a senior research fellow and a medical entomologist in the parasitology department of Nunguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. And he has had over 26 years in research into these entomology issues we are going to talk about. Doctor is passionate about the parasite we are coming to talk about. There is a parasite, which is, we will talk about that one. But this mosquito, doctor is passionate about it. Quite recently, I had a project with him, with some students. Come and see how doctor is training students to identify this insect, mosquito, in their community. And so we are lucky to have him on our set today to help us understand the disease called, the organism called mosquito. Doctor came with another research scientist over here. As for her name, you will love it. She is the only one who bears the JJs. And I call him Mrs. JJ. Madam Juanita. Doctor, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Juanita is also a research assistant, senior research assistant in Nungochi. They also work on this entomology department. Doctor is a head of department for the parasitology department in Nungochi. Today you are here. And then we have one of our students who is also passionate about insects joining us on Zoom. When he's in, yes, we have Uria Kakari. Uria, when he is ready, we will just let you know. He's passionate about these mosquitoes, and we are all going to talk about it. So what do you have to know about mosquitoes? And somebody will say, why do we even have to discuss mosquitoes? Yes, we need to, because he is a dangerous organism on our planet Earth. Dog.
Thank you.
How are you?
For introducing me. I'm good. And you?
I'm also fine.
Very good.
Anytime I see you, I feel so happy.
Thank you.
Wow, you are more than a father. Yes, Juanita.
Madam Betty.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm also fine. Yes. So today, Earth Day, that people are planting trees, people are talking about pollution, and we chose to discuss mosquitoes. So, why do we really have to discuss mosquitoes? Just give us a little background of mosquitoes, and let's see.
Thank you, Betty. And thank you for having me here.
You're welcome.
I'm really happy to be here, and this is my first time here. Anyway, so mosquitoes, yes, today is a World Earth Day, as you said. Yes. And this afternoon I was listening to the news, and I heard the U.S. ambassador visited Asante Hine. And one of the things that Asantini was talking about was the issue about degradation, land degradation, and people in mining activities that degrades the earth and creates all kinds of problems. One of the problems of such an activity is the creation of breeding sites for mosquitoes. Oh, okay. So the earth and the mosquitoes have a link. And that's why I think this discussion is very important within the context of World Health celebration. But yes, mosquitoes are small insects. They are worth talking about because they create very much problems for us. We'll go into the details of some of the diseases they transmit. But globally, they are called, some people label them as the most dangerous insects on Earth. That's relative. People can, but for me, if you look at the devastating effects they have on families in terms of disease they cause, the bedding, death, that's mortality rates for most of the diseases. It's sad that mosquitoes are very important, and it's good that we are educating people on why we need to talk about mosquitoes and how we need to control them. Just a few days away from today, we have the World Malaria Day, which also comes with all the activities on mosquitoes. So I think it's a good time to talk about mosquitoes.
Thank you so much. Yes. So Madam Juanita, yes, I just want you quickly to take us through. People will not understand. They will say, yes, we have lived with mosquitoes for so long, but can we have some statistics on the death rates, the issues they cause, and that, so that at least people will really have a feel that this disease is really dangerous, or this organism, yes, is dangerous.
Okay, so as Dr. Dazi said, people label mosquitoes as the most dangerous animal in the world. It's because they transmit diseases. So what they do is when they take a blood meal, the female mosquitoes, they transmit parasites or pathogens that are disease-causing pathogens. And when they affect humans, they cause serious illness to humans. And then it also causes mortality and morbidity. So it affects families in the long run. You're not able to even work and make money to take care of your family when you are sick. So they are very dangerous, and it's very important to really talk about the mosquitoes because of the kind of diseases they cause and the burden that they bring onto humans.
Just to add to what Juanita said, if you take malaria for instance, there's a particular type of mosquito that transmits malaria, or that picks the parasite and pass it on to people from one person to another. And
so before Doug, you continue, I just want to ask this question. In Ghana here, we only know malaria. Yes. So anytime you talk about mosquito, people think that you are just talking about malaria. So do we really have different kinds of mosquitoes in our country here?
Yes. So globally, we have almost about over 3,500 different species of mosquitoes globally. So depending on the country you come from, we have different numbers. But for us in Ghana, we have several species of mosquitoes. The most common ones that we find are the ones that we call the Anopheles mosquitoes. We have the Culex, and then we have the Aedes species. The Anopheles mosquitoes are the what we call the Malaria mosquitoes. In short, we call them the gentle mosquitoes. They are very gentle, they look very nice. And the Aedes are the black and white. The black and white mosquitoes are normally the ones you find. They are day biters. They bite mostly in the afternoon when you sit out of your, on your veranda in your house. And because they are domestic, the Aedes are domestic mosquitoes because they breed mostly around houses, in pots, where we store water in our houses. And they transmit a disease we call dengue. They can also transmit a disease we call chikungunya, even Zika. You've heard the word Zika, the disease Zika, that caused a lot of devastation in South America. So Aedes also are very dangerous mosquitoes. But and then the Culex for us in Ghana, fortunately we have not implicated Culex in disease transmission, although in some countries they transmit several diseases, including elephantiasis. And the only danger we have in Ghana, it could be a blessing or it could be a curse, is that the same Anopheles mosquito can also transmit a disease we call elephantiasis. So the elephantiasis is the big legs, and sometimes some women also get some big breasts. So it's more of very debilitating disease, really, the elephantiasis, if you see the pictures. These are also transmitted by the malaria vector. Yes, the Anopheles mosquito.
It's not only malaria.
Yes, so for Ghana especially, if you get bitten by an Anopheles mosquito, you may either get malaria, or if you live in an endemic community where elephantiasis is common. You may also, after several years of being bitten by the mosquito and passing the parasite to you, develop what we call elephantiasis as well.
Doc, you said several years, so it means that it doesn't show is early like mosquitoes.
Yes, so
you may have the parasite in you developing.
Exactly, you said it right. So the elephantiasis is a parasite.
Okay.
Okay, it's called the Wuchereria bancrofti parasite, and because the way it multiplies, you know, the malaria parasite can go into your system, get into your liver, and within a short time multiply into millions.
Yes.
But this one, each of the parasite will have to mate with the female and produce the young ones, and it takes a long time.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes it can be 10 years, even before this parasite becomes so many in your blood, they block your lymph systems, and then that's where you start getting symptoms that show that you are getting edema. You know, you have these swollen legs, and sometimes hydrocele, you know, you call it gyprim or something in tree. I don't know the name for the other languages. So it's such that many people don't know that those kind of conditions are caused by mosquitoes. In many of the rural communities where I've worked, people associate those kind of disease to sunlight, that they went into the farm and, you know, they stepped on something. So there's very little knowledge of its association to mosquitoes.
No, so it means that we are not just exposing ourselves to danger by always being bitten by mosquitoes, and you are not getting this malaria. It should be of a concern that because you are not, something different will develop. And you are saying it can take about 10 solid years. And
do you know how it affects families? I have seen people who have gotten this disease, and they've lost all their family members.
Wow.
Yes, so most of them that we worked on or we surveyed had their wives living them. So they were living alone. Some of them, their children had left them, because it gets to a point you can't walk around easily. You can't do anything, you know. So it's so debilitating that if you see the condition in which some of these people are, it really affects families. And I think that is something worth, you know, educating people on.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So let's, because I'm shocked, because for me, all that I know is about the malaria and then the Zika, the Aedes aegypti, and maybe the yellow fever and itself. Now let's come into Madame Juanita. I want us to find out how are they being bred? You see, their breeding pattern and their behaviors. How is it like?
Okay, so first I would like to say mosquitoes take sweet liquids. Okay, to survive. But then the female mosquito also needs to take a blood meal in order to develop her eggs, to nourish the eggs. So once the eggs are nourished, she lays her eggs in water. So they look for standing water. They usually like to breed in standing water, still water. She lays the eggs in the still water, and then when the eggs hatch, the larvae comes out, and then the larvae molts 3 times to form the pupae. And then with the pupae, it's where it emerges to form the adult mosquito. And then when the adult mosquito emerges, the cycle starts again. So like I said, they like to breed in still water. So there are different species of mosquito, different types, like Dr. Dazi said, and then they breed in different types of habitats. So with the Anopheles mosquito, the gentle mosquito, they like to breed in clean water. But with the Culex, which is the dirty mosquito, they like to breed in dirty water, like it said. And then for the Aedes mosquito, they breed in artificial containers, usually man-made containers, so like discarded cans or even shells. They're able to breed and leave axils. They're able to breed in such places. Yes, so it's usually as humans, you know, we play a role also in this, in helping mosquitoes breed, because most of these breeding sites are created by us. So we help mosquitoes breed, and then there are so many in our environments and we do not understand why, but it's due to our very own activities, and that's how these mosquitoes breed and also come and transmit diseases onto us as humans.
So I think one of our guests is on Zoom. Let's welcome Uriah Kakari. Hello. Okay, so we will get in touch with him when he's ready. Hello?
Hello, madam.
Good evening, and how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you too?
I'm also fine. Thanks for joining us, Uriah.
Thank you very much for having me.
And so today we are talking about your passion, mosquito. Yes, and so I believe you are going to give us a lot about mosquitoes. I was so happy one day when we were talking about how we can really get rid of mosquitoes if we really want to, about their management. So we'll get in touch with you very soon. But we are still on the breeding habits, and we want to see how they behave, because you were talking about the various habitats that they breed. I want to find out if I live along a gutter, that big gutter with dirt and the rest, is it possible I can find Anopheles mosquito? Which type of mosquito should I be looking at?
So Betty, there's always the same. I've talked to a lot of people who have said, every mosquito is a mosquito.
Okay.
But I think we now know that there are different types of mosquitoes, and they all breed at different places. So depending on the type of mosquito you are looking at, there are specific water bodies that they breed in. You'll be surprised to know that the mosquitoes are able to pick the pH of the water that they breed in. They have sensors that are able to determine the turbidity of the water, the pH, whether the water is polluted or not. And this is specific to different species.
Wow.
So before a mosquito will find that this water is suitable, they're able to test so they know that their offspring can survive in that water. So the Anopheles, as Juanita said, are mostly adapted to breeding in clear water. And that's why normally, temperature, climate is very important for mosquitoes, especially because for Anopheles, for instance, when it rains, the water that collects around our houses, small pools of water, turbid water, very tiny water like hoof prints of cattle. Those small waters, because they are directly exposed to sun, because Anopheles the larvae like sunlight. So the water should be exposed to the sun, and that's why when it rains, all those puddles are very good breeding place for. And you see, once it rains, the Anopheles populations build up, and that's where malaria cases come up. So you always see that malaria cases are mostly associated with rains. Because the mosquitoes, especially the malaria mosquitoes, will come up, or their populations will adapt. But I think the important thing to note is that mosquitoes, as Juanita, spend part of their life in water. But immediately they move to adults, they are dispersed.
Wow.
So it's much easier to control them when they're in water than when they become adult. When they become adult, they disperse. But a female mosquito needs just a little blood from you, Betty. Why does it need that blood? Because it needs the blood very badly to nourish its eggs. So once it mates with the male, and then the sperms get deposited in the spermatica, it needs blood to fertilize the eggs. So it will come to look for blood. They feed on different types of animals, honestly. But there are some mosquitoes that have the tendency to feed on mostly humans. That's their behavior. Others can feed on animals. Others can feed on both humans and animals. All that they need is the blood.
Can they spread the malaria to the animals?
Yes, we have animal malaria as well. We have bird malaria, avian malaria. So different type of parasites. It's not the same. For human disease, the parasite is Plasmodium falciparum. We have also other Plasmodium that occur in animals, monkeys, for instance, Plasmodium knowlesi. All of them are different type of malaria which occur in different animals. But the point I'm making is that as much as the female mosquito needs blood, it will come and you go at length to look for blood. That's when you are sleeping, it comes to pick a little bit of your blood. Or when you are sitting out there, it comes to pick. Without the blood, they can't grow their eggs and nourish, get their progeny. So the question is, if you deny mosquitoes of blood, what happens? They cannot produce. Okay? So as Juanita said, in the absence of blood, they feed on nectar, other sweet things that give them energy. So for the females to lay eggs, and one mosquito can lay up to about 300 eggs. And that's why it's very difficult to control them. One mosquito can lay up to about 200 to 300 eggs. So if you have 10 of them, how many offspring are you talking about? So within a short time, they can become, their numbers peak, and then they begin to bite. I think the important thing also to note is that before you can even think of controlling or knowing what type of mosquito, you need to know their behavior.
Yes.
So it's important we are discussing their behavior. The Aedes mosquitoes are day biters.
Okay.
The ones that transmit yellow fever, dengue, chikungunya, and Zika, they're mostly day biters. So if you sit out in the afternoon, most often they are the ones that will come to your legs to bite. And they are very aggressive. They will come looking for blood. So when they come probe and you flag, they will still come. Okay? The anopheles are night biters. The anopheles, the malaria mosquitoes, they bite mostly in the night. When you are deep asleep between 2 a.m. to 3 a.m., when you are fast asleep, that's when they come, because they know they have very little resistance, you know. So if you are not sleeping under any net that protects you, they will come at you and get the blood that they need for their aspirin. The other one, Culex, they bite mostly at dawn in the early morning or late afternoon.
Oh, so we don't have any breathing space for mosquitoes.
So as if they are planned, they are biting at night. So
if Anopheles doesn't get you in the night, Culex will get you at dawn.
It's all a way to enable them, each one able to, so they don't compete. There's less competition, and they can all get at least a little bite off. So okay, you go early, I will come early in the night, but please you wait, I will come this time. So it's all arranged in that order. You know, it's so interesting.
In fact, it's so interesting. Nature is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know, one thing that when doctor was saying, one thing that was going through my mind, human beings, we can really destroy our environment. Because our activity, one, can cause mosquitoes to give diseases to animals that are living with us. At the same time, we ourselves. Then let's see, what are some of the things that we families do that we are able to cause these mosquitoes to breed so much within our communities. But then another thing, doctor, before you go, when you see that when you put a bucket of water in your house, by the time you realize, you see some of these, are they part of mosquitoes, or how do they get in? Because the water is clear and it's clean. So add this to this question and let's say.
Yeah, I think Juanita
will come in first.
So with this kind, so that's a larvae.
Yes.
So usually when you have water, standing water in artificial containers like the bucket or a barrel there for a long time, which is not covered, these Aedes mosquitoes, they usually like to breed in such areas. So they lay their eggs in that kind of breeding sites, and then they hatch and become larvae. Yes, because the water is undisturbed. They like this kind of breeding sites. So that is mosquito larvae. That's the Aedes larvae that breeds in such.
So in actual fact, you are in your house and you are breeding mosquitoes in your house, and you have no clue. You see the little pot, you know, when you put your freezer, the water that drains, and you have a little container there that is supposed to collect the water. You'll be surprised that after a while, if you look in, you find some, as you said, things moving in like worms. They're actually Aedes larvae, because the Aedes mostly are the ones that you find in your houses, water pots that we keep for storage. That's why when you are controlling Aedes, you control Aedes differently. If you are controlling anopheles, you'll come to that definitely because of the way they are found. So you are right. In fact, one of my research I did going around the country, we were doing some work on Aedes mosquitoes to determine the risks that people are exposed to Aedes disease. So you'll be surprised that many people, when you go to their houses and look in the water, put a torchlight in the tanks, you find these black things moving. So you call them and say, do you know what this thing is? They say, no, this is like a worm. Say, this is a mosquito. You know, and when they are aware, become aware, then you see that they start trying to discard the water, throw the water away and all that. So it's all part of education to get people to know that these mosquitoes breed in a house. If you don't put water there, they will not come to breed. Once you leave water there, you know, it's a requirement for them. And that's why even if they don't have the right type of water they like, they can adapt to any other type of water because they need the water to breed. So they will have some mechanism in them that will be able to adapt to, instead of being in a very clean water, the anopheles now can say, okay, because I can't get clean water, they will change their system to be able to breed in polluted water, or in water that you normally will not find them breeding. So it's a survival thing that allows them to adapt to different water. But the good thing is that the education that's going on, just like we are doing today, helps people to know that these very insects are around us, and we create the environment, the conditions for them to also thrive. And then once we know how to, you know, take care of all these things, it helps to minimize the risk of some of these diseases. Yeah.
This also reminds me about an interesting fact about the Aedes mosquito.
Okay.
So we've been talking about them living part of their life in water. They are quite the immature stages in water. But it will surprise you to know that the Aedes mosquitoes are also able to lay their eggs. They are not able. They don't lay in water. If there's no water available, they are able to lay somewhere else, and the eggs remain viable. And then when water is made present, then the eggs are able to hatch. And that's it about the Aedes mosquito.
So even when you are trying to discard your water away, they will find a place to lay.
Yes.
And
when it's
and the eggs can stick onto any material and be there for sometimes 4, 5, 1 year and over. They can withstand desiccation to the extent that even when the weather is dry, they can stay there. Once they get into water, they hatch. So that's how come the Aedes are very persistent, and that's how come you have different type of species coming to the, you know, called invasive species coming because they come through the ports. When we ship the ties, the lorry ties, these eggs get stuck onto the ties, and as we transport them to the country, some of them hatch and then they
No, Doc, repeat that statement again.
No, currently we have a challenge with some of these invasive species coming to different countries. We have a challenge even for Anopheles. There are some Anopheles species that were very common in other countries, were transmitting malaria. Now those species are also coming to Africa and also into Ghana. We have Aedes species, for instance. Let me give you an example. One species we call Aedes albopictus.
Yes.
Albopictus is a species that is very persistent. It transmits several viruses, including all the ones I've mentioned. But then we are finding some of them coming to Africa, and Ghana recently, through some of our research, we found that we have some species already here. They come through the ports. Most of the research has found that they come through importation of lorry ties and other things that bring, because you know, this easy transportation now, people can walk, come in here anytime. So all these things have been controlled. In fact, at the Ghana ports, we have a program there working with Noguchi and Ghana Health Service, where we are trying to monitor these diseases at the ports. So we have a system where we are able to collect Aedes and identify them to find out whether we have some of these new species coming to the country. So they already, Ghana Health Service are aware of this, and they are doing something, trying to make sure that we don't get these things coming to the country. Yeah.
No, because it's something that you don't even think of at all. Yeah. So you can go and buy a lorry tie to your house, and you bring a different species of mosquito there, and you come and live. And let's come, because now we are noticing that when you use urea, I'm bringing this question to you. When you use insecticide spray, the mosquitoes are not dying anymore. Why? And how can we control them? In fact, let's get into the control aspect. Because for now, for me in my house, you can't stay outside in the morning, you can't stay in the afternoon, in the evening you can't stay. Definitely wherever you go, you have a bite. When you are outside the house, around your house, you have a bite within the... So how do we control them? How? Urea, how do we do this control issue so that we'll be able to at least stay safe?
Good evening, and good evening to Dr. Dazi. Dr. Dazi has been my lecturer at APIS. and I'm looking forward to working to him on my project work, which I've sent to him already.
He's your student. Oh, okay. Urea, so today you've met your doctor, don't worry.
Yes, I wish I were at the studio to really meet him in person, because I've been chasing him around for some time, coming to Noguchi a number of times.
Wow.
So, but Doc, we'll meet and talk later. Yes, so on the control, I would say first it starts with us human beings or citizens in our homes and communities where we stay, even before we come to the use of insecticide. Just as Dr. Dazi and my colleagues said, the water puddles we leave at home, the buckets, the uncovered tanks and all, become breeding sites for these mosquitoes. And just as it was also said, even the eggs can withstand desiccation over a long period of time. And once there is rain, there is water, they become viable and the life cycle begins. So it means then that in our own ways, how can we even prevent the larva in the first place? Once the mating starts, when they want a place to lay their eggs, and just as it was also said, they test for better places, the pH level of the water, whether or not the water is acidic or basic enough to support their eggs. So in our homes, if we're going to sleep, if we disposing of water, sometimes we collect water, or after washing, we leave some there, and it becomes a place for them to breed. Sometimes we have dirty containers or containers we want to dispose, we didn't dispose them off well. The cork of our mineral bottles, champagne that we use at home, these small containers we don't pay attention to, collect water on our blind side. And that small container can at least contain, the cork of a bottle can contain about 10 to 20, 50 larvae. And this is cause to worry about. That's where it starts from. Now, if you're able to break the life cycle, at least we can reduce the population before we even come to think about the use of insecticide control, which also has its own effects, good and bad. So that's where I will start from. We pay attention to our environment. We pay attention to our disposal of water. Sometimes you go into some communities, especially those who do frequent washing of feet and hands, especially the Muslim communities. You mostly, almost all the time, have some water puddles around. And even within this COVID situation where hand washing is very encouraged, the disposal of water becomes an issue, because sometimes we throw the water just anywhere and you don't even know the puddle that is reserving water for these mosquitoes to breed. If you are not able to break that cycle, the population increases, then we want ways of controlling it. Then we come to the insecticidal use. Also, I'll mention that keeping our environment clean, because just as it was said, they find places to lay their eggs, even if there's no water. And this can be done on materials like the bushes, the leaves, some like the lorry ties we're talking about. Even though we're looking at the export side, sometimes for those of us who have vehicles at home, after changing our tires, we try to keep them at home. We don't use them for anything. It's only there in our backyard. We have heaps of, a number of them there, different containers, coolant container that we don't use again. We open it and leave it there. So as much as possible, we should pay attention to these little things. Try as much as possible to have containers turned upside down if we can't cover it.
Okay.
Get rid of these little corks there around our house, and it will start helping in the population control before we even come to the insecticidal control.
Okay. So we want to come back to the studio to see my guest over. You know, Ghana, we have now gotten to a situation where we use a lot of sachet water. We have polythene bags, cans. Are these also part of the breeding sites for these mosquitoes? And how is this activity also promoting their growth?
So directly for the rubbers and things, the plastic bags and things, not much to the extent that they can collect water enough for. But I mean for the like sachet water, for instance. But what they do is when you dispose of them, they go into block gutters. You know, normally any water that is flowing, you can't have mosquito breeding in there. So as Juanita said, they normally want stagnant water that is stationary. So when this, you drive around Accra and see the level of blockade of these gutters with these rubbers. Once the gutter is blocked, it accumulates water. And if you go in there and look, you find thousands and thousands of mosquito larvae breeding in there. These mosquitoes will breed there within a day, they emerge to adults, and they are going around looking for blood. So that's one of the challenge we have with all this, and of course, discarded containers, cans that we throw about. Once it collects water, you have the tendency of having mosquitoes breeding in there as well. So I think, Janita, you can continue and add more to.
Yes. So now for us as a country, I want to see what will be the best, because from the way we are talking, it looks as if the situation is not as easy as we think. And it looks as if there is no hope in controlling this particular disease. As a country, as families, as individuals, what exactly can we do? What is the best way? Because we need to keep these organisms under control. What would be the best way?
So before Janita comes in, I think I was trying to make a point. And we are doing a lot. In fact, the Ghana program, you know, we have different programs that are in place to control different diseases. For instance, we have the malaria control program, which has been tasked to put in all the measures and even all the support to control malaria in the country. Yes. We have NTD program that also controls other diseases which are transmitted by insects, including mosquitoes. Okay. But what I'm saying is that we as individuals have a role to play, and that comes with education. Once people become educated about mosquitoes, where they breed, what kind of thing that we also do that affects their breeding, then they take personal responsibility of making sure that they prevent the breeding. Because when you do that, then you are protecting your family, you are protecting yourself, you are protecting all the people around you. Because you can imagine malaria, for instance, some few years back, every 30 seconds, you have a child dying of malaria.
Wow.
So you can imagine the number of children. And the high-risk group are the kids, the children. So if you have a child and you have to lose that child due to malaria, that's a big problem. So now we have, because of all the interventions that are put in place, malaria has gone down for about quite a couple of years now. Malaria has been going down, but we still have to do more. And that's why I think this program is important, to try and get people to know that we are not done with mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are here with us. They are, you know, the danger is that, the danger is that as malaria is going down, we have other diseases coming in.
Wow.
Let me give you an example. Dengue. Dengue is transmitted by the Aedes mosquito, the black and white mosquito. Okay. We have countries surrounding us that have seen outbreak of dengue. Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, you know, yes, they've all had outbreak. And as I speak to you now, the outbreaks of dengue. Ghana, we are not sure whether, we are rather still on the time bomb. We don't know when this outbreak will come. Okay. You know, some research that has been done has shown that there are people who have been exposed to the virus in one way or the other. But the outbreaks we are yet to see. So that's why the education is very important, because controlling Aedes is not the same as controlling Anopheles. If there's dengue outbreak, controlling dengue is entirely different, because, you know, because the Aedes bite during the day. If you sleep, you can't sleep in the night during the daytime.
No.
So what do you do when there's dengue outbreak? You understand?
Yes.
The procedure is different. For malaria, because the mosquito bites the night, that's why when they give you net, it protects you.
Oh, okay.
So all the different behaviors is what inform the choice of control. So no one control exactly fits all. It's very easy to control them when they're in water. So that's why we have now what we call larvicides. Okay. These are chemicals, or in some ways botanicals that are used. Once you put in the water, it kills the larvae before even they become adults. But once they become adults, then they all disperse. And now you have to look for specific control measure. So simple things, if you ask me, there are simple things that we can do to make sure that we actually get rid of mosquitoes, or reduce the burden of some of these mosquito-borne diseases. And as my other colleagues have said, simple things, don't leave open water containers. You know, just cover them. If you have a water container or a storage, you know, facility in your house, cover it so it doesn't allow mosquitoes to come in to lay eggs. If you leave it open, they'll come in and lay eggs. So just covering the water alone is enough to prevent breeding, especially for our houses. For Anopheles mosquitoes, because the water is so diverse, mostly over a short time they dry up. Okay. But when it rains, the mosquito will come up again. So there are different ways that are available. The use of nets are shown to be very effective in reducing the malaria mosquitoes. If you sleep under a net, you are protected. And next, there are now different strategies being adopted. One of them, repellents. Repellents have also come to help with the Aedes mosquitoes. Because when you are sitting out in the afternoon and you can't sleep in the net, you use repellent on your legs. That also repels them and they don't come to bite you. So
does it not have effect on the skin?
No, these repellents are mostly evaluated.
Okay.
And they go through all the different phases of evaluation to talk of safety and efficacy. And they mostly, before they are registered for use, they have gone through all these phases and before EPA or FDA will approve them for use. So of course, therefore, once you use them, it also protects you against bites of these mosquitoes. And there's a saying that if there are no mosquitoes, there's no malaria.
Yeah.
All the countries that have controlled malaria or don't have malaria anymore used to have malaria.
Okay.
But what they did was to just focus on the mosquito and get rid of all the breeding sites, the swarms where the mosquitoes were breeding. And once those swarms are not there, you don't find mosquitoes there.
So as a country, is there any specific activity we can, because you could say that we have bushy areas. Definitely we can find them there. Big gutters, we can find them there. Is there any specific activity that as a country, you are coming from the research side, so you can tell us more, that we are doing in order to curtail the spread of this or to prevent them from breeding faster or more?
So there are different strategies. There are different things being developed every day. You mentioned insecticides.
Okay.
Insecticides have been one of the main tools being used to control these insects, especially mosquitoes. But the challenge we have now, and that's the work currently we are doing with the National Malaria Control Program, is to determine whether these mosquitoes are actually responding to these insecticides.
You spray them, by the time you come
I have bad news for you, because what is happening is that most of the insecticide we are currently using, the mosquitoes have developed resistance to them.
My goodness.
So in other words, you have a net, or you have some insecticide, the coils that we use, the sprays, are such that most of the mosquitoes have developed. So now they are developing new tools, new insecticides that have different mode of, so the mosquito cannot recognize them.
Okay.
So that's what is being done, most companies, so that we can be able to, and we have also developed what we call resistance management plan for Ghana, which was something I helped to develop. So we have a plan that we are following to make sure that we are reduce the impact of resistance on this, because that's one of the very, very, important things that we have to tackle as a country if we want to move into getting malaria out of the country.
But can we really get it out of the country?
I believe, like you said, the simple things like we are discussing now will help to make sure, if we don't even eliminate, some people talk eradication. The question is, can we get to a point where we say malaria has been eradicated? Like we have some diseases being eradicated, in Ghana, like you have, guinea worm and other things that used to be, now you don't hear about them. But the fact of malaria is that the mosquito is so diverse, the breeding sites are so diverse, the populations are so diverse. So for instance, in Ghana, we are still in the control phase. We are still controlling. We are now trying to move into elimination.
Okay.
So getting to elimination means that we need to do basic things. We need to change our mindset. We need to have a paradigm shift from the way we see things and try to do basic things that can help, like you said, covering of water containers at home, not leaving open containers, gutter, desilting. You'll be surprised how effective desilting gutters can help. Because once you desilt a gutter, the water flows. And once the water is flowing, no mosquito have the capacity to breed there.
Good.
So the silting alone, we call it environmental management, helps without even putting any insecticide in the water, helps to control. So these are abilities that have been done in some countries and help to reduce or get to a point where these insect-borne diseases or mosquito-borne are not much of a challenge to them now.
I never thought that small insect can give us such trouble that we are going through. But then we still have to talk about it. But do they have prime times that they are biting. We've spoken about their biting times, but apart from the rainy season, are there other prime times that we should target, or we should just give caution that getting to this period will be experiencing mosquitoes different types, so we should be careful, do this, do that? Is there any advice to give on that side?
Yes. Okay, so I think the mosquitoes are really affected by conditions, weather conditions.
Yes.
So I think rainfall and then temperature, when those things are present.
Even when you talk about temperature, I still don't get it. What is it, a cold temperature or is it a warm temperature? At what temperature should we, or is it keeping my water warm or cold? So I know that when I boil my water to a certain point, mosquito cannot live in. What temperature are we talking about?
She's talking about climatic temperatures. So for instance, the reason why all these insects like mosquitoes are prevalent in our part of it because we have this tropical weather.
Okay.
The heat, as I told, Anopheles larvae prefer sunlight. So when they breed and there's sun, the larvae are able to very quickly and become adults.
So does that mean that now that we are having hot conditions,
yes, so it means that's why when it rains, rainy season comes with rains. Okay. So there's availability of breeding sites. Okay. Once those breeding sites are also come, they're also exposed to the sun. So during daytime, there's sun. Then in the evening, of course, you have. So, and then the mosquitoes are mostly associated with the rains. So once it rains, populations go up because there's a lot of breeding available. Okay. But you are talking about their biting. I mentioned earlier that each species bite differently. For the Aedes mosquitoes, the black and white, as I said, they are daytime biters. They bite mostly during the day. And the Anopheles are night biters. So they bite. Their peak time of biting is actually between, as I said, 2 to 3 a.m. But you know what is happening? They are also changing their behavior because they realize that now, with the nets that they use, they are not getting blood so they have to change their behavior. So now we are finding them biting earlier. And some of them are biting late when people are away from their bed. Wow. And so the net gives them protection, but they're also shifting their behavior. Some research we have done clearly showing that the mosquitoes, instead of biting in the night, are also biting earlier before even people go to bed. So before you go to bed, you are already bitten. Okay. They also are changing their behavior because of the insecticides. Okay. They are avoiding the insecticides. So instead of resting in the room, they'll be resting outside.
Oh, so even when you spray your room, yes, you won't get it. As soon as you open your door, they are out there
going to rest. So they all have to survive. Survival instinct.
Yeah.
They have all these behaviors that impact on, of course, disease. And that's why we need to continually do research to find out whether all the things we are doing is also changing the behavior of the mosquitoes. And then we can also formulate strategies to attack them. If not, you realize that after a couple of years, you'll be putting the same intervention, but it's not working because the mosquito have also developed, or they call it that they've dodged your intervention to that extent.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's important to continually educate and let people know that these things are there, and as well, really, I think it's very good.
Yeah. Let's come to this question. Let me take you by surprise with this question. We are talking about families and family life, of course. So now that we are saying that it's not only malaria that we are getting from mosquitoes, what advice will we give to families who, when they see that the child is hot, they quickly rush to the pharmacy? Mami mutontumo anyway, I can't say mosquito way, a drono or koto, small one. Then they add para to it. They come and administer on their own. How dangerous can that be? Knowing that now it's not only malaria that we are having within our communities.
So I think I will come down, Janet, I will add some. Okay. The first thing to do is prevention. Okay. So for the children, especially for the young kids, they cannot withstand the stress of the parasite at all, especially the malaria parasite. They are the high-risk group. Okay. If you look at the mortality rate in children, it's very, very high because the immunity...
From which age?
So you are talking about at least from up to about 5 years. Okay. Okay, 5 years thereabout. Now there's a bit of change in the age range, but normally from 0 to about 5 years, where they are now building their immunity, they are not able to fight the parasite when it comes. So the children, first and foremost, make sure your children are protected. They sleep, get mosquito nets for them. Let them sleep under the nets. That protects them from getting the bites. Make sure that your children, anytime you are going out, you dress them nicely so that they don't get their hands exposed to get bites, for instance. And some of these preventive measures are very, very helpful so that you don't even get the bite before you're now going to see whether you are going to a pharmacy. And self-medication doesn't help. The malaria control program has guidelines, especially for malaria, of if you have malaria, what you should do. And so if you go into a pharmacy just to buy any drug, you help. What you're actually doing is that you are taking drugs that may not be killing the parasite, and within a short time, the parasite also develop resistance to those drugs.
Wow.
And therefore they will not be effective. So there are clear guidelines, and once you follow those guidelines and you take the right treatment, you should get the cure. The good thing is that we are now educating people on the other non-malaria, diseases like dengue, yellow fever. Yellow fever has been with us, but because there's a vaccine, people normally don't talk about it. But yellow fever outbreaks occur. We have dengue is what's really we really have to be careful that we have outbreaks around us from neighboring countries, and we need to prepare ourselves.
Do we have vaccine for dengue?
No, there's no vaccine for dengue. There's no vaccine for Zika. I know there are some vaccines being looked at in some countries. People are trying some vaccines, but currently dengue, they don't have. So the only way to control dengue is through the vector control or through the mosquito.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And just to add to what Dr. Dazi said, self-medication is not the best, because even with these diseases, some of them have similar symptoms. So you may think you're having malaria, but it's actually dengue that may be affecting you. So you need to go to the hospital and get tested to find out what is exactly happening before you are being treated.
But can dengue be detected?
Yes.
In Ghana here?
Yes.
For now?
Yes, we have the capacity to do that, and the Ghana Health Service have a system of detecting that. In Noguchi, we have set up systems for detecting dengue also, just like you can detect malaria.
Doc, I'm asking this because any time that you feel feverish, the only test they do is malaria. And even there, they will tell you that, though, we didn't see any parasites. So I think it's something very dangerous.
It has come up these days because we have what we call non-febrile illnesses. So you go to a hospital, you feel similar symptoms like you have malaria. You are tested and it's not malaria. So now most doctors look for other non-malaria illnesses like dengue, respiratory disease. There are several things that give you the same symptoms as if you had malaria. And that is why it's important, as she said, that you go to the hospital, you get tested, and then they'll be able to determine what exactly is the cause of your fever or high temperature.
So we are wrapping up. As we wrap up, I just want you to just let us know if really it has economic impacts, both on the country and then we as families. And then are there other alternatives in controlling them? Because I'm hearing of, is it genetically modified mosquitoes and the rest? We didn't go much into it, but if you can just tackle on that for us. If really we do have something like, because I know other countries are trying to see if they can do these GMO mosquitoes to control the normal one.
So generally, vector-borne diseases, including mosquito-borne disease, really is a big problem. One of the big challenges we have with public health is vector-borne disease. Malaria, for instance, you can imagine the burden of malaria. You have almost about 5 million people, or 700,000 people globally, affected by vector-borne diseases. Children, over 1 million dying every year. So it affects families. And the economic burden is that if your child, you are sick, you can't go to work. And if you can't go to work, you cannot go to the market, you cannot go and sell to earn something to take care of your family. So you don't want to even get malaria. You get malaria for the next 4, 5, 6 days until you get well, you can't work. So there's direct economic impact on families, and not even to say of the country, because now the country also, once people are not working, of course it will impact on your economy in terms of what people do. For control, as I said, I am always advocating for a change in our attitude and a call for a paradigm shift of what normally we've been doing. There are very simple things that we can do. This issue about genetically modified mosquitoes is something that other people are looking at to see whether we can change the makeup of the mosquito so that those things that allow the mosquito to develop the parasite, we are able to, inject it in another mosquito so that it prevents the mosquito from developing the parasite. These are things, but these are long term.
Yes,
and also these things go through a lot of regulatory things before they get approval for them to be used, because a lot of minds about genetic things. So I'm part of a group currently working on that, looking at other alternatives, especially using genetically modified mosquitoes, and we provide our expert advice to countries that are involved in that. So these are other things. There are a lot of other innovations that people are, one I have always said that, the eaves, if you go to the rural areas, the houses are not sealed.
Yes.
So you can enter a house and you see that the edges are all open and people sleep there. Those eaves are the direct areas, the areas that mosquitoes enter into the house.
Okay.
What we have done before is to just go and seal those areas. And we did that study somewhere in central region. And if you do that, you are able to even reduce mosquito, now almost 80% of mosquito, entry into the house is reduced. So just sealing the house alone casts off mosquitoes completely. So, and if you go to rural areas, many houses don't have ceilings. So these are basic things that can be done to help, reduce these mosquito-borne diseases. But of course, it goes with education and letting people know that these things are there and we need to do this to control these mosquitoes.
Yes. So being a researcher, I'm just giving this one and then we'll wrap up. Are we thinking of developing nets that are mosquito-proof for families, so that at least this one is not a question, it's a rhetorical question. Mosquito-proof nets. Okay, so as soon as the mosquito gets into it or touch it, the mosquito die. It will die definitely. So it will not have time.
So she's working something like that.
So you are working towards something like that.
Yes, when she works there, that's what they do.
So I think right now with the mosquito nets we have, they have insecticides incorporated in them. So once the mosquito has contact with the nets, they are supposed to die. But with resistance, sometimes they do not die. So there's actually nets like that that are able
for
to
the
kill.
windows that we will use on our window frame. So definitely they will not enter. Not the net that we sleep under. So
yes,
if
I
we
think
can
there's something like that, a screen,
yes.
exactly.
Yes.
So there are screens that have been developed that serve that function.
Yes.
There are net screens.
Yes.
Have been developed that you can just fix onto your door.
Yes.
And then, or at the window, so it prevents mosquitoes from. And when they come, it also repels.
Yes.
So once they come in and then they feel that there's an insecticide there, they'll be repelled and
One
they can
will
enter.
let you give us the area where we can go and then get them. And so we are bringing our discussion to a. In fact, we've enjoyed the discussion so much. So our final words to our viewers out there. What do you want to tell them concerning the topic?
Yeah. So mosquitoes are dangerous.
Yes.
They've lived with us over many years. They've given us a lot of problems. Malaria is one of them. We are worried about other mosquito-borne diseases as a country. Dengue is one of them. So we should all be alert and we should all do basic things that will help protect our families, because it starts with us. It said zero malaria starts with me. In other words, I should do some basic things that can help protect my family and protect people around me, and of course protect people, the workforce in the country. So this education is good, and I entreat people to, as we have said, if you suspect you have malaria or you have any other disease, go to the hospital, get tested. In fact, there is a policy now. All suspected malaria are supposed to be tested. So you are tested, they see it's malaria, they give you the right treatment, you are okay. If it's not malaria, the doctors know what to do. So don't do self-medication. It doesn't help. It rather aggravates and gives you a condition where now it will come to a point where you have malaria and no drug will work for you at all. So these are a few things, advice that I think I will give families concerning their
Yes, Madam Juanita.
Yes, just a little to add. I just want to say that we should all work together. We need to help each other. Maybe the education might come to you, but it's not going to somebody else. You need to extend the knowledge to somebody. Teach your neighbors, because the mosquitoes, when they breed at your place, they can fly all the way to your neighbor's place and bite them. So we need to work together.
They don't
and
need
help.
a visa.
Yes, they don't. We need to work together and help reduce the malaria burden.
Mr. Iria Kakari, Yeah, so sorry, we were so excited over here. What are your final words to your viewers concerning these mosquitoes we are talking about?
Yeah, so just to add to what my lecturer has said already, it starts with us. We pay attention to our environment and also use the insecticide mosquito net. Sometimes we do complain that it's very warm inside,
Yes.
but it's actually if you are in a warm environment, then definitely there wouldn't be enough air for you and for the air to even circulate within the net. So as much as possible, we should sleep under treated mosquito nets. Also, if we are used to using insecticide spray, we should pay attention to the usage. When you spray, you should stay outside for some time so you don't get almost always exposed to this insecticide use. So it is important to pay attention to our environment, listen to what our health professionals are saying. Then again, what we mentioned on the self-medication. Where possible, we should avoid self-medication. We should seek for medical attention before we even go in. Because just as they mentioned, the signs and symptoms are different for different, and sometimes it might just be similar but not malaria. So we should pay attention to that as well.
Oh.
Then we can make a headway in doing as much as possible. This education is every year. It should go on within our schools, our churches, our communities, because if you're able to understand the life cycle of the mosquito, it will help us in knowing what we can do even in our communities to start.
Facebook, and then I want to just quickly read one of the message we had over here from our friend on Facebook. He's saying that he's watching us from Amsterdam. He's saying that I'm watching you from Amsterdam. God bless you so much. We thank God so much for giving us this opportunity to come on your way. May the Lord bless us all. Amen.
Amen.
What? So as I'm saying, we want to wrap up. We are wrapping up on our discussion. We are wrapping up on our discussion for this evening. This evening with me are Dr. Dazi from Nunguchi, Dr. K. Dazi, that's Kweku Dazi from Nunguchi, Samuel Dazi from Nunguchi, senior researcher, and then Madam Juanita, as senior researcher assistant. But doctor is a fellow.
Yes.
Yes, and you are assistant researcher. We thank you so much for joining us today. We have really loved your discussion. And
thank you. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
I love this place.
Yes. So, my dear viewer, we thank God. At the end of the day, it is the family that needs to be protected. Yeah. So may the Lord be with us, grant us the strength to apply what we have studied. We will come on your way next week, same time. So always make a date with us and send us your contribution to stay blessed and stay safe.